The characteristics that made up Greek city-states included the fact that had a small size and a small population. They also had a market, which was known as an agora, and their more important buildings, their temples were built on top of a hill known as an acropolis. Prior to democracy taking hold in ancient Greece, the different city-states utilized a number of different forms of government, including monarchies, aristocracies, oligarchies, and tyranny. Monarchy is just ruled by one individual who controls all things, all factors of production, all political units. An aristocracy is a situation where the government is led by nobles and wealthy individuals. An oligarchy is ruled by a few powerful people who had become discontent with the rule of the nobles and the aristocracy. And a tyranny is basically a rebellion by an oppressed group of individuals and not necessarily nobles. If you look on page 128 of your book, there's a great chart that goes through each one of these types of governments. Draco, Solon, and Cleisthenes also made a number of contributions to ancient Greece, which pushed them towards a democratic society. Draco was the first. He was credited with establishing the first Greek written code of laws. Solon had canceled the debts of the poor. He abolished enslavement for debt. He freed those who were enslaved to pay off their debt. He helped to expand voting eligibility, and he also set up a court of appeals. Cleisthenes basically his contributions were that he was the first to turn Athens into a direct democracy where all people have say in government. He helped to abolish class divisions that were based on wealth. He brought in the assembly of membership so that more people could be heard. He helped to establish the Council of 500, which was a legislative making body in ancient Greece, and he had jurors that were chosen by lot or at random and voted on by a secret ballot. It is worth noting here as well that throughout Greece, it's worth noting though that citizens in ancient Greece, in the city-states like Sparta and Athens, the majority of people were not free. Free individuals were adult males who usually owned land. So obviously slaves and women were not included as free citizens in the ancient Greek city-states. The Greek city-state of Athens dedicated much of its work towards educating its young. Boys were rehearsed in a number of liberal arts, educational settings like history and poetry and dance and gymnastics and other types of athletics, while girls were taught domestic work. And there's a great quote on page 129 to give you a little bit of insight as to how women were treated or seen in Athens. The Greek city-state of Sparta was a lot different, complete 180 from Athens. They valued duty and strength, discipline and honor to their city-state above all else, and we looked at a few different clips from the movie 300 in class, which should give you a little bit of indication as to what their values were. The downside of this was that they did not contribute anything in the work of art, literature, or science to modern day life, because everything in their life was dedicated to the military. The one aspect where they were a little bit more advanced in Western civilization aspects was that they did treat their women with a lot more respect. Women were seen as vital to the life of the Greek city-state in Sparta because they were the ones who were responsible for producing soldiers to protect their city-state. The Persian War ultimately brought Sparta and Athens together to protect ancient Greece. They were able to do this because iron had a huge impact on the daily life of the Athenians and the Spartans. Iron became much more widely available, so all could afford it. All of them then could participate more freely in the army. The hoplites emerged at this time. They used special military formations such as the flanks in defeating their enemies. When it came to defeating the Persians, we talked a little bit about the Battle of Marathon and Phidippides and his run to Athens after a Athens battle, where he ran back to Athens to notify the Athenians of their victory so that they would not surrender to the incoming Persian navy. We talked a little bit about the Battle of Thermopylae, and we looked at a couple of clips from 300 there, where 300 Spartans took on Xerxes and the Persian army, ultimately to their death, but basically gave hope to the rest of the Greek city-states that they could defeat this empire that was invading them. Salamis was another battle that was won by the army general from Athens, Themistocles, where he suggested a sea battle against the incoming Persian naval fleet in the Salamis Strait, which was very narrow, and the Athenian ships had much smaller ships, and they could utilize that narrow area to their advantage in order to defeat the Persian fleet. And after the Persian War, the Greek city-states put together or created the Delian League, which is kind of similar to maybe a United Nations or a NATO today, where the Greek city-states would all pool together to develop economic power. But Pericles, who was the main contributor to the Delian League, had eventually moved the Delian League from the island of Delos to Athens, so that all the profits that came by way of the Delian League would go to profit Athens at the expense of all the other city-states, which ultimately leads to the civil war between Sparta and Athens and other Greek city-states.